Welcome everyone. We are less than 1 week away from the Diablo 4 release, and I am super excited. I'm sure you are too. I've been really focused on Druid content and Druid planning, as I'm definitely starting with that. I haven't really done a Storm build that I went over yet, so I decided to go over a Storm leveling build as well as an endgame build. We're going over two builds and then a variation on the second one as well, but the first one will help you with leveling. All aspects used are from the codex. They're all guaranteed aspects you can get from completing dungeons, which will give you the chance to put that aspect on any item. You don't need every item here, but I did list every item that you can do to max out your gear and max out your damage. An obvious disclaimer, play how you guys want to play. You don't have to go Storm. You don't have to follow this build, obviously, but this is just a suggestion that I made. And it seems to be pretty effective, especially for Storm. It's very easy to have a full build kind of down. So let's go over the build here. This is pretty much the leveling build, and we'll go over the gear and the skills that we're going to be using. So start off with aspect of the Mending Stone. This will give you a Earthen Bulwark for up to 9 seconds and increase the length of your barrier. And you can always replenish it, which is really good, and it'll keep you at full health as much as possible. And while barrier is up, you do gain Unstoppable, so that is very helpful as well. And we do have some benefits to Unstoppable with our boots. We're going to take Ghostwalker aspect, so while Unstoppable and after that, so you'll be able to use Earthen Bulwark every 16 seconds. There's a downtime of around 7 seconds, but there's only a downtime of around 3 seconds for this buff right here, which is up to 25% extra movement speed and being able to walk through enemies. So that's really helpful. You won't get stuck anywhere. Then we're going to just take aspect of Shared Misery. This one's not super crazy in terms of damage, but it is pretty functional. When you hit a crowd controlled enemy, you have a chance to spread that crowd control, and you'll have a pretty good chance to immobilize with this build. And immobilizing will also give you more damage buffs with some of the skills that we're taking. Then we take Edgemaster's aspect. So this gives you up to 20% increased damage based on your primary resource when cast. And since we are taking Lightning Storm, if you actually cast it with full spirit, that's the time you're casting it, and you're actually channeling this ability. So you'll be able to use it 7 to 8 times in a row, and that buff should apply to all of that if you hold it down the whole time, because you only cast it once in the beginning and it's a channeled skill. Then we're taking Aspect of Might. This is just going to give you 20% extra damage reduction, so just one of those basic modifiers to help you be a little tankier. This one's quite tanky. Then, as mentioned, Ghostwalker aspect. Then for our weapon, we're going to take Aspect of the Expectant. Attacking enemies with basic skills increases the next damage of your core skills. So this is a pretty common item. A lot of people have tried in the beta, but essentially you're going to have to use your basic attack 2-3 times. Then you're going to get a good damage buff on your next cast. And like I mentioned, that cast can apply 7 to 8 different hits. So quite effective, especially with Lightning Storm. Then we're going to take Shepherd's Aspect. We're going to incorporate a lot of companions in this build just because our main damage dealer is going to be just standing and using Lightning Storm. So we're going to take this for an extra damage modifier on that Lightning Storm. And we're going to have, we're taking all 3 companions, and we're also going to take 2 additional Ravens. I don't know if this counts as 2 active companions because it does say active companions, so I'm not sure if that only applies to when you hit the active button. So in this case it would be 6 seconds. I know wolves will stay active, but I'm pretty sure it does apply to if they're out. So in this case you'll have 3 ravens, 1 poison creeper, and 2 wolves, so that's a total of 6. Then we're going to take Overcharged Aspect. We're going lightning, so we want to take a few of these lightning buffs. Then we're going to take Aspect of Retaliation. That is your core skills, deal up to 40% extra damage based on the amount of Fortify as you use your Earthen Bulwark and keep tanky. And Druids have a lot of ways to get Fortify. Then we're actually going to use the offhand. I typically don't see or use many builds that use the offhand. Having 200% bonus in your weapon is quite good. So you don't have to necessarily use this, but for now, if you want, you can. This one will actually increase your damage up to 30% while standing still. And once again, with Lightning Storm, you're going to be standing still while channeling this ability for up to 7 to 8 casts, which will be a long time. So that could be an effective amount of damage, 30% just like that. You can drop one of these if you need to. Maybe you're not seeing Fortify a lot. And in that case, you can move one of these items that aren't maxed out. So this one's maxed out at 30%. This one's also maxed out at 30%. So you might want to take something like Shepherd's Aspect to increase that damage by doubling this damage. Over here, we do have a 50% modifier though, so you can always play around with other things. Even Edgemaster's Aspect would be pretty good in the weapon slot. Alright, for our Spirit Boons, we're going to take Gift of the Stag. You won't really need this. As of right now, based on this build, including Gift of the Stag, you should be able to do 8 casts in a row. So if you're not tanky enough, then you can switch that to Wariness to get 10% reduced damage. You'll still have a good amount of Spirit in this build and a good amount of Spirit regen. Then we're going to take 30% extra crit damage. Then we are taking Pack Leader so we can get those reset cooldowns. We do have 3 companions, so resetting cooldowns is very effective, and we're also going to have lucky hits to get 10 spirit back. So there's a good chance you can maybe get, you know, more than 10 casts in a row if standing still with Lightning Storm. Then we have Overload for more lightning damage. We want to just have a lucky hit on that, 20% more damage to surrounding enemies. I wanted to see a lot of lightning damage in this build, and pretty much lightning besides your companions is our main damage dealer. So for our skill tree, we are going with Wind Shear at first. You could consider Storm Strike if you want to go into melee range, but right now this is a far casting build. Essentially, you don't have to go as close, and therefore you won't take as much damage, and you can keep your berry up. So we're going to take Wind Shear, and that will do 20% chance to make enemies vulnerable, so that's quite good. And then we're going to take Wild Wind Shear to get that extra spirit. So you should have your spirit up quite often, and it'll be quite easy to refill that. We're also going to take max spirit up by 9 and extra spirit regen on attack. So there's a good chance you can fill up your spirit in 3 to 4 hits from 0. Then we are going to max out Lightning Storm for that damage, of course. We are going to take 8% chance to immobilize. Like I mentioned earlier, immobilize will help with DPS as well as CCing enemies essentially, so pretty useful there. We are going to take Earthen Bulwark for our tankiness and unstoppable, and also some Fortify. Then we are taking Ancestral Fortitude. We want to increase our non-physical resistance, so that helps us with our tankiness. Then we're going to take our companions, so we're going to take 1 point in Wolves and use Ferocious Wolves for Fortify, so another source of Fortify here. Then we're going to take Poison Creeper. We're going to put 2 in there, and then we're going to take Ferocious Poison Creeper for that extended duration. Then we're taking Nature's Reach for up to 18% increased damage, quite a bit. We're going to take Ravens. That will help us with our passive damage, as well as crit strike chance, which is pretty important in this build. And then we're going to take 30% extra damage for our companions. So the companions will do a good amount of damage, but your lightnings will definitely do more. Then we're going to take Elemental Exposure. This one is just to get into this tree. This one will help our enemies become vulnerable, but we're hoping that they will be vulnerable for quite some time here with our Wind Shear. Then we're going to take Charge Atmosphere. It's every 18 seconds, so it's really not too effective, and it's just an extra lightning bolt. But more importantly, we're going to take Electric Shock here for a 15% chance to immobilize your enemies. And if they're already immobilized, you get 15% extra damage. So if they're immobilized from any other spell, then they're going to be taking quite a bit more damage if this procs. Here we're going to take Neurotoxin. Because we're using Poison Creeper, we're going to be able to poison enemies often. So we have 30% here for Envenom, 30% extra crit damage. So we're going to take Defiance and max it out for 12% increased damage. For Lightning, that is a nature magic skill. And then we're going to take Circle of Life to continue healing. There's not much other healing in this build, so we're going to go with that for 3% healing per cast. Then we're going to take Resonance for 2% more damage as well, and possibly 6% after using Earthen Bulwark. We didn't max this out because Earthen Bulwark will be down quite often, so you're not going to be using an Earth skill and then a Storm skill often. So once every 18 seconds or so, you're going to get 6% increased damage, and most of the time you'll just get 2%. And then for our ultimate, we're going to take Perfect Storm. This one will also help you grant Spirit and do 50% more damage to those immobilized enemies. So the immobilized proc is quite effective. You're going to get up to 45+% DPS just on those. This will definitely help you get through the campaign and through the World Tier 2, and will help you get through that Capstone Dungeon to help you get to World Tier 3, and it probably can do quite a bit. But I know for a fact you will get drops as you play through the game, and there's a good chance you can play around with any of these aspects, remove and swap, or whatever you get. If you get aspects that help you with earth damage or other skills, have fun, go ahead and try those, and obviously, switch the builds up to something else that might work better with those aspects, because, those aspects might be better, especially if they're not so easy to get. Alright, so we're coming here now for our closer to end game type build. This one will include some unique items as well as aspects that are not from the codex, so you're going to have to get them from a drop. This one increases your damage output a lot. So this one is going to be focused around using Grizzly Rage and do a lot more damage. For items, we're going to take Tempest Roar for our Storm skills. My understanding is your base Storm skill is now Werewolf skill. I'm not sure if that means your basic skill, but it does say your base Storm skill. So I think if it is a Storm skill, then it will be now considered a Werewolf skill. So in this build, we're not actually taking a basic attack anymore. We're just going to be using Lightning Storm. So Tempest Roar will actually help us get our spirit back just from attacking, and it also counts as a werewolf skill now. We're going to take Aspect of Shared Misery, again for that immobilization. We're still taking Shepherd's Aspect, and then we're going to take Storm's Companion. So this build is not necessarily a companion-based build, but it's going to be using the wolves and infuse them with lightning, so that it's still a lightning-focused build, but you're also going to have some meat shield still, and you're going to be able to do a lot more damage with those wolves. So we're going to take that to infuse those wolves with more damage and gain Storm Howl. Then we're going to take Ghostwalker's Aspect again, same boots. Here, for the weapon, we're going to take Aspect of the Rampaging Werebeast. We're going to get an increased duration of Grizzly Rage up to 10 seconds, which can be very effective. In this build, we do want to make sure that Grizzly Rage is up as much as possible. And during that, you actually get 10% crit damage bonus on every crit chance. So you definitely want to crit, and that is why we're going to be taking Earthen Might in this build. So this will constantly stack crit damage if you're constantly critting. So you can do a lot of damage, especially if you have 100% crit. Then we're going to take Direwolf's Aspect. So Grizzly Rage now turns you into a werewolf, and that will kind of go and play with everything else. So you're going to get extra movement speed, and you're going to get extra damage based on the skill, and then you're going to get a ton of spirit cost reduction, so you'll definitely be able to spam your abilities, and that's why you don't need to take a primary skill. With the amulet, you can get up to 75% spirit cost reduction, so that should be very effective, especially with the spirit regen that we have in this build. Then we're going to take Mighty Storm's Aspect. This one is so that Earthen Might can work for your lightning skills, which can help you get either 100% crit chance or fill your spirit back up. Then we're going to take Lightning Dancer's Aspect. When Earthen Might procs, you're going to 100% crit. Then you're going to spawn some bolts to do some extra damage to enemies. And then we have Runeworker's Conduit Aspect. This one will be some more lightning damage on a crit, but most likely you're going to want to use a two-handed weapon, so you might need to drop this. For boons, we're going to take Wariness, then we're going to take that crit damage, and then we're also going to take Energize to, you know, continue the possibility of regaining our spirit from our spirit costing skills. Then we are also going to take Calamity to extend the duration of our ultimate skills. So that means our ultimate should last close to 40 seconds. And there's a 10-second cooldown based on that. But then we're also going to take Calm Before the Storm for our nature magic skills, such as Lightning Storm, to have the potential to cool down your ultimate by 2 seconds. You're going to have the skill up for 38 to 40 seconds, so being able to do a lot of spells in that time, there's a good chance your lucky hit will proc quite a few times and your downtime will be 0. So for the skill tree, we're just taking Wind Shear to get us into the next section. We're going to take Lightning Storm, max that out. Here we're not taking Abundance anymore, but we are doing 9% more spirit use for 15% more damage. Then we're going to take Earthen Bulwark again. So this will be for your tankiness and Unstoppable, as well as Fortify. And then we're also going to just add 5% resistance here. We dropped Poison Creeper, but we're still taking our Wolves. We're still taking Nature's Reach. We're still taking Ravens. And we still want that 30% extra damage because it's pretty significant. Then we're going to take the same skills here under Elemental Exposure. We're going to charge Atmosphere and then Electric Shock for that 50% chance on immobilized enemies. Here we are taking Neurotoxin and then Envenom again. We are also taking Toxic Claws now because we are now dropping Poison Creeper. We want another way to inflict poison damage for that 30% crit damage. So our crit strikes will now be poison damage from our lightning skills, because our lightning skills are now werewolf skills also. Then we're going to take Trample for mobility, and we're going to take Savage for that 20 extra spirit. So we do have another spirit regenerator. So we have, once again, extra damage, a lot more extra damage to vulnerable, immobilized, and in general our lightning damage, and some healing. We're also going to take Resonance at 6% damage, and that's always 6% damage, and very occasionally 18% damage after you use Earthen Bulwark. Then we're taking Grizzly Rage, of course. We're going to max that out. We have Unstoppable now as well, and during the whole time of that. And we're going to take Supreme Grizzly Rage for that extra percent Fortify every second. So this is quite effective. You're going to be Grizzly Raged quite often, and yeah, you're going to be stacking health. It's going to be really good. And we're going to take Earthen Might now, because Earthen Might is now triggered with Storm to get that full spirit back, or 100% crit strike chance. Once that procs once, your damage is going to go crazy, and you're going to stack crit damage as well. And there's a good chance, you know, it will proc again during a fight. So for example, in a boss, you'll be stacking him quite a bit. So that's the second build, quite a bit of damage. The third build, I feel, does a lot more damage. So let's go check that out. We're going to take another couple unit. Luna, can I help you? So for the third build, we're going to take a couple more uniques to do some more damage output. Now the difference here, we're taking Mad Wolf's Glee. This one will make Werewolf our true form. Essentially all it does is add 2 ranks to our Lightning Storm, which is now a Werewolf skill. So now it will be at 7, and also you get damage reduction from poison enemies and extra movement speed. Then we're going to take Conceited Aspect for up to 25% more damage while you have a barrier up. And it's quite nice to have a barrier up. It's just another form of tankiness. And you know, this will also help you do a lot more damage while being tanky. To help with that, we're going to take Temerity. This one will help you gain a barrier once you heal above 100% life. These pants also have a lot of healing effects. As you can see, there's 4 different sections there: potion charges, drop rate, and a lucky hit. So once you combine this with Direwolf's Aspect, which is also what we're taking for you know, our Dire Werewolf, we're going to get 10% of your max life back on kills. So with that, you should have a 80% barrier up quite often, and it'll be very effective. And with that barrier up, you get 25% more damage. Then we're going to take Ghostwalker aspect again, just for unstoppable. We're always going to be unstoppable with Grizzly Rage, so we should be quite fast in this build, and unhindered. Then we're going to take Rampaging Werebeast again, and the other items are still the same, so once again, you can most likely drop this Conduit aspect. For our skills and boons, we're not changing anything between this and the last build. Coming to the skill tree, this is where it changes a little bit. So we actually switched out of using Earthen Bulwark, even though barriers are very helpful in this, but using the Temerity, which is very key for this build, to make these adjustments. You won't really need it, plus you're not really going to have the chance to use it often, as it is not a werewolf skill, and you're not going to be able to use it. So we actually switched that to taking Cyclone Armor, as it is a storm skill, and you will be able to use it while in werewolf form. This way, you'll get some more damage reduction, you'll knock back, and you'll be able to make enemies vulnerable, because we're also not taking Wind Shear for that chance to be vulnerable, so we need to add vulnerable attacks elsewhere. So here we're essentially going to get a guaranteed vulnerable stack. Then we're going to come to our companions. So these guys are not going to do as much damage, but they're still going to be somewhat effective. So we're going to take Wolves again. We have our Nature's Reach. We're also taking 1 point out of Call of the Wild, just because our companions aren't doing as much damage. So we're also switching here in Elemental Exposure. We want a larger chance to get a vulnerable enemy, so we're up to 3 seconds. So then we're taking 1 point here again, and 3 points here. And then the rest of the skill tree is the same. So we're taking Grizzly Rage, and we're maxing these guys out here, and we're taking Earthenmite as well. The main damage from this build is when you actually get that Earthenmite proc to hit. You're going to hit a lot of crits, and that is going to stack on every ability and item that you have to make quite a good synergy and to get effective Storm werewolf damage. So that's pretty cool, and this is going to be a very viable build. There's definitely going to be options you can play around with different items and different aspects, so have fun and let me know what you think about these builds. I know a lot of you guys wanted to try storm builds, so this should definitely apply and definitely be very effective, and the companions are really strong as a good modifier to this build. All of the links for the builds are going to be in the description, so feel free to check them out there. On the last build, I did a basic Paragon board as well. I only started with 2 Paragon boards, obviously the starting board, and then another one which is Thunderstruck, so that is obviously relevant to lightning. On the first one, we're taking the Fulminate Glyph for extra lightning damage, and then the second, we are going to get Thunderstruck for 30% increased crit strike damage against vulnerable enemies or immobilized. So that's a pretty much guaranteed modifier, and there's quite a bit of extra damage buffs as well, such as Protector here, which is actually really good on this one as we are increasing lightning damage. You're obviously going to do a lot more than that, but that is the basis of the beginning of the Paragon boards. So let me know what you guys think. I look forward to seeing you guys on the game in a week's time, but for now, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.